Tony VEZNER in Rockford, Illinois. He is the main director guy at NAT. Now, that's not his official title. We'll probably figure that out later. I haven't done much prep work here. And I had the opportunity of meeting him. I kind of helped out with Alice in Wonderland a little bit. So we're gonna kind of talk about that a little bit and what's coming and everything. I guess, Tony, the very first thing, Alice in Wonderland is a pretty big corpus of work if you count all of the, through the looking glass and all that stuff. Right. And you pared it down into a very tight, yet still fun. I mean, it wasn't like rushed or anything like that. A very, very tight storyline with, you took away a lot of the allegory with the charm was all still there. And so what were how did you step through that, and what are some of the messages that you decided were the main focal point for your show?
Well, I didn't, I didn't have this long-term relationship with that book. I never read it as a kid. Never had it read to me.
Now you saw the Disney stuff possibly.
I never saw the Disney movie until we were getting ready to do it.
That is wild. Yeah, it reminds me of, like, you see all the people, the actors in Star Trek, the hot chicks are like, strangely enough, myself being a hot chick, didn't watch Star Trek growing up. So
right, yeah.
That kind of reminds me of that.
So I didn't have this real love affair affinity with the story. We just kind of selected it because we thought it would appeal to kids and would appeal to families at the holiday time. But when I got into it and started reading it, I realized that it was very episodic, that there wasn't really this overall story that Alice has to go to this place or go to that place, that she just meets in kind of a random order a bunch of wacky people and has, different wacky adventures with these people. So that was very liberating because it meant that I could pick and choose whichever ones I wanted, and there wouldn't be any part of the plot that would be missed. Right. We knew that she had to fall in the hole, and at the end she had to go to court. And we did incorporate a lot of the stuff through the looking glass just because we ended up liking those characters a lot. And so I kind of opened it up to my staff. I have I've developed, I think, a really good collaborative relationship with my staff. And I said, look, read these books and let's just vote on which ones we think are kind of the coolest parts of the story. And the same ones kind of came up on everybody's list. A few people got passionate about a few ones that didn't make it. I wanted the lobster quadrille to make it for a long time. It didn't. So we just kind of picked and chose the stories that we thought were kind of the interesting parts of it, the episodes, and mushed them together and tried to then arrange them to come up with the right running order. And then
that was challenging.
Yeah, it was. And then trying to think of what are some overall themes, because the books may be great for kids' story time at night, because they're episodic. Sure. The kid doesn't have to remember what happened last night. He could it's a brand new episode each time. But for an audience sitting for 2 hours in a theater, they want it to have an overall arc, an overall storyline to it. So I myself am a father. I have 2 kids, 7 and 5, and already kind of
they were your editors, weren't they?
Yeah, well, a little bit. They kind of were my inspiration. That I felt, I already feel kind of a sense of loss about them growing up. Sure. Yeah. About them changing and growing. And so that became, with Alice physically growing and changing at times in the story, that became kind of our theme. It's the sense of how do you grow up well? What does it take to grow up properly? And so that became kind of our main focus, is answering that question.
And I think it's great how you do have a relatively easy to pick up. You got to work for it a little bit, which you don't want a metaphor just to be like, I'm a metaphor, But it is there, and by the time the knight or the narrator kind of, he drove it home, I mean, the balance thing. That was really cool. I suppose, how did you find that balance? Where did you get, ironic choice of words, how did you find, like, okay, are we being silly enough? Are we serving the storyline enough? I mean, where was your compass on that?
I think it's finding each character and saying, all right, what is it that makes this character special, As a staff, we all chose that character, whatever character it was special to the story. What is it that makes them? Why is it important that Alice run into that person? Sure. What does that person have to teach her? And or what great joke is there in that person being around? You know? So it's that, and just trying to make that as rich and vibrant as possible. So that when she runs into that character really comes through and splashes out as large as life.
Very cool. I thought one of the interesting things, now I also am not as familiar with the story or other productions of it, certainly. I think I remember in the Disney cartoon there was narration of a type, but
a little bit, yeah.
Just very little.
Right.
You actually had the author come out, an actor. He's been dead for some time, the real author. That would be freaky.
Right.
And he broke the fourth wall.
Yeah.
And that was just an example of some of the great vintage feel of it, but you had some of those modern stage production I've ever seen. There's like a lot of avant-garde elements almost with like the folks in black like moving stuff around.
Yeah.
How did again we have another tug of war between the old and the new, like breaking the fourth wall, having the ninjas on the stage, stuff like that.
Well, we don't have what TV and movie has, so we don't have that access to special effects as much. I mean, we certainly used it with the stuff that you did, but for the most part, we have to kind of come up with our own version of what is it. Alice needs to grow large. What do we have that's going to represent a large version of Alice?
Which, as we said, InGen and I did some special effects. Anybody's familiar with the program or any of the other work, I figured that was job one, was you're going to have me somehow video digitally grow.
Yeah.
I was like, this, I can't believe this is the thing I'm not doing.
Right, yeah.
It's like, good.
So I mean, you just kind
tired of that.
Run into people, and we ran into this puppeteer who said, we decided we'd like to make really large shoes and really large leggings to represent her. And the old trick of having the people dressed in black kind of became, this way where we acknowledge to the audience, look, we're not doing this like Star Wars. It isn't green screen. We can't actually do these things. But we believe that if we do it well enough, you'll go on a journey of the imagination with us and accept it, and your heart will go with it, and you will find wonder, even though if you look really closely, you can see the guy in black manipulating whatever it is, a puppet or a giant butterfly that the caterpillar turns into, or whatever that item is. So it's kind of asking the audience to kind of accept the way we're going to make the special effects happen.
You were never precious about it or never mealy-mouthed. You're like, look, dude on the stage, dressed in black, butterfly. And you're like, instead of let's fake the reality, let's make this look cool in its own way. That was pretty straightforward. That you're like right off the bat, you're like, we're not fooling anyone.
Well, and it's interesting that you bring that up, because to me, the moment I think that says right off to the bat to the audience what they're going to get is when she falls down the hole. And we have both the guys holding her up in the air and helping her do kind of her acrobatics in the air, and then we brought the video screen in and did the stuff that you generated, which is very high tech, and using a digital video projector to make all this stuff behind her. I think at that moment we said to the audience, we might choose to go video, we might choose to go high tech, and we're also going to go low tech.
Right.
We're going to use the whole spectrum. And so in that one moment where those two things kind of blended together to make one effect, I think kind of let the audience know right off the bat, we're going to see all of this whole range of stuff.
I think that's definitely the way the audiences I sat with, they kind of took it that way. I think the crowning moment, though, when they realized it was going to the next level, and I think you know what it is. It's the kind of the next shot, actually.
Right.
Want to kind of walk us through that a little bit?
Sure. Well, one of the themes that we came up with that, for me, that kind of tied things together was the idea of frames, and the idea that she is stepping from one frame of reference to another as she goes to each new world, and so one of those frames in modern life is definitely a TV screen.
Sure.
And so, since we have digital video capability here, we thought, let's make that a moment. And so that's when we contacted the guys at InGen and said, we'd like to create a sequence where Alice actually steps into kind of a TV screen and runs off to do some things, and the White Rabbit runs in. And they, Kevin and Doug and you guys got so excited about taking that challenge and making it work. And it really, really worked well. And I don't think there was a night it happened that it didn't fail to get an ooh moment.
There's breath drawn in, and I'm like, I remember the first time we were like teching it out and everything like that, and you're like spinning around. You're like,
yeah.
I was like, it was kind of a strangely triumphant moment. So that's interesting. Well, that's Alice, and that's great. And and all, but obviously that wasn't your swan song. You got other stuff in the pipes.
We have our founder coming in, J.R. Sullivan, who's directing a little Irish comedy called Stones in His Pockets, where 2 actors are going to play about 15 characters, male and female.
Good Lord.
And so it's kind of a knockout acting tour de force.
I guess so.
And then after that, you and the Engine guys, I think, are helping us put up Tommy.
I hope so. Hopefully don't piss you off between now and then.
No, big video, explosive, fantastic, phantasmagoria for the eyes.
Easy on the hype, sir.
Yep. Big.
We have trouble delivering now. We're gonna go minimalist with it. No, I'm kidding. We were just gonna hand out blotter acid to the audience and let them do the work for us. You know.
Yeah.